Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Dr. Thomas Blackwell. We're going to be discussing his amazing book, An American Educator, a story of tragedy and triumph, how an educator changed the lives of an American family. Now it's available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, pretty much wherever books are sold. You're going to want to head on over there and pick up your copies today. And before we go any further, I want to take this opportunity and point out that Dr. Blackwell was brought to our network by one of the best advertising firms in the business. And people, you know, I'm talking about Orion Press Books. So listen to me. If you're a writer out there, you've written a book, and now you find yourself stuck because, well, now you need to find a way to move the book you just wrote. Well, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give. Contact Orion Press because they're one of the best in the business to do it. And frankly, this is what they specialize in. So you're going to want to head on over to orionpressbooks.com today, gather all of the ways that they're going to help maximize your creative endeavors, and see what their fantastic team has to offer. And listen, it is a true pleasure to have Dr. Blackwell here on the line. Now, right there in the title, and there's no beating around the bush, okay? You got an idea of what we're discussing today. Now, this is a memoir, so we're going to be learning from Dr. Blackwell's experience, not only on his journey through life in general, but also his time as an American educator. There is so much to be gained here, and one of the underlying messages is something that we're all going to be able to take to the bank. Because people, listen, we understand that when it comes to life and death, well, you know, as unfortunate as it may be, death is inevitable. And though we may not want to think about it, it's important to understand that those loved ones around us, especially our parents, aren't always going to be there physically. And this book brings up that notion of how important it is to always remember the precious times that we share and have shared with those loved ones, and again, with our parents. Now, listen, this is going to be a wonderful journey that you're going to be taking, and you might want to have your tissue box next to you, okay? Because it could be a bit of a tearjerker as it sends you down memory lane. And I know that once you've concluded, you're gonna put the book down, and you're gonna call your loved ones, you're gonna call your parents, and you're just gonna want to talk to them because this is gonna bring you back. I know it's already doing it for me, and we've just begun. And at the end of the day, don't take my word for it. Take Dr. Blackwell's. It's his book. He's written it. It's his life. He's lived it. And he's going to be able to articulate it much better than I ever could. So sit back, strap in, and get ready for a wonderful ride. Dr. Blackwell, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction. And thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing just great, Benji. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Better than I deserve, and I appreciate you asking. Listen, it's a true pleasure to have you here, man. I just from an education standpoint, I want to quickly point this out. My listening audience knows this already, but I had a very brief stint in education myself. But I know a lot of educators within my family and also within my close inner circle. And listen, man, educators never get the amount of credit that they deserve for the number of hats that they have to wear. And they damn sure don't get paid enough. So thank you for everything that you have done and continue to do, helping shape and mold the minds of future generations. It is truly a delight to have you with us. Without further ado, let's jump right in. An American Educator. Tell us a little bit more about your book.
Well, my book came to be from another book. I've written several books, and I wanted to write a book about my mother and father. They were my heroes. But during COVID, it sparked another idea. Now, my stepmother during the COVID of 1918, her whole entire family was wiped out. The
Wow.
only person left in her family was her sister and herself. And she rose through the ranks uh, of being a worker, but her aspiration was to be a teacher.
Hmm.
And she came into our lives when I was 5 years old and changed the direction and the path that I, my previous father was headed. So she put an indelible mark on how I looked at myself, how I looked at life, and how I looked at education. And in the process, she changed my father and myself in the interim.
There you have it. Dr. Blackwell, when did you first realize you wanted to be a writer? Because as you mentioned, this is not the only book that you've written. So talk to us a little bit more about that.
I first realized I wanted to be a writer in the eighth grade. I never will forget it. My eighth grade teacher had all the young men stand up in class, and he just looked at us for a second. He looked around and he said, "You boys are going to Vietnam, and some of you are going to die." Oh, man, that had an indelible mark on my heart and my
Yeah,
head as I'm walking
absolutely.
home. I'm thinking I'm only 12 years old. How am I going to die? And so my first question that came to my heart, well, what is my life is going to turn out? So as by the time I got home, I wrote my first poem, and it was called One Man's Question. And I questioned myself about, well, was I really going to die in Vietnam? I ended up in the interim going to Vietnam, but I made it back. But the question I put in that poem, because I was such a young lad at the time, was, who will I become and what will I accomplish?
Yeah.
And that started me on writing poems. And matter of fact, one of my journals, which in the interim became its own book, was called The Quest for Certainty. For the next 35 years, I wrote poetry about my life and the direction and what I saw growing up as a young man in Jackson, Michigan.
Mhm. Next question here for you, Dr. Blackwell, is this we listen, any writer out there understands that writing a book is a process, right? Sometimes the inspiration hits you and things just start to spill out. But you hit writer's block, you come across obstacles. It always happens that way. And you start to learn things along the journey as well. Well, Dr. Blackwell, what were the important things that you learned while creating your book?
Well, I can call her Marie now. I remember our first teacher meeting. I wanted to call her Mama. She said, "You can't call me Mama here. You call me Marie." I said, "Oh, wow, a little bit awkward, calling your mother by your first name." But from her inspiration, she shared with me, she said, "You want to be unique in life?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "What you do is you keep a journal on your life. And when you get to be an old man, you can go back through your journals and list your whole life of where you've been, who you've talked to." And I have to admit to you, Benji, I have all my journals in life from 12 years up to my birthday yesterday, which was 75. I have all my journals, and they're all intact. And they list the places I've been, what I've learned, the people I've talked to. And it's just made an indelible mark on on my life. And this is why she said, keep a journal because you have your history. So I
Mhm.
have my history right in my drawers.
Dr. Blackwell, what would you say was a highlight for you in writing their book?
It always comes back, every time I think about it, it always comes back to Marie and how she influenced me through my writing. That first poem that I think I mentioned that I wrote, when I turned it into my English class, the teacher gave me a C. And I thought, well, I'm not going to be much of a writer. And she said, "Go blue." My mother was a staunch Wolverine. What that meant, what I learned that meant was you keep going no matter what. And I explained to her, "Well, I'm not a writer." She said, "Yes, you are. I'm going to prove it to you. And you know what? She did. She proved it to me because the next opportunity I had was to write a piece in the Jackson Blazer, which was a newspaper, and it was on 50 words on how to how to be safe. And she showed me how to edit. She showed me how to use a dictionary. And Benji, I won. When everybody in
Wow.
my neighborhood said, you can't win those kinds of things. And the prize was one day with a rich man, a $50 bill and a set of encyclopedias. Well, I long spent the $50. I still have the encyclopedias, but that one day with that man taught me how to set goals. Matter of fact, he insulted my intelligence. He said, "Young man, you did really good." He said, do you know the strangest secret in the world?" And it's a strangest secret. What does that mean? He said, "You mean to tell me your dad's a pastor and you don't know the strangest secret in the world?" Young man, I suggest you go talk to your father. And I did. My father explained that to me, and he said, "Well, it's all in the Bible." Benji, do you realize I spent the next 30 years of my life going through the Bible trying to find where it says you become what you think about? And I created my own journal of Bible passages that says, whatever comes out of your mouth, that's what's going to happen to you.
Hmm. There you have it. People, again, you got to head on over to Amazon and Barnes& and Noble. Purchase your copies of An American Educator by Dr. Thomas Blackwell. You surely will not be disappointed. You know, two-part question here with this next one, Dr. Blackwell, but first and foremost, who would you say is your intended reader with this book, and what is the main message that you hope that they receive from it after completing it?
My main reader is the teachers. That was my livelihood. I wanted to talk about teaching. Matter of fact, I'm putting together another book, which gets further in depth into that. But I wanted to touch the lives of as many educators and or parents that I could, because it's been such a rewarding profession for me. I loved every minute. People say they have dreams at night. I dream about being back in the classroom. One of the unique things that we did based upon my excitement about teaching was I had all my students for 40 years write their goals and dreams down on paper so they could see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would mail it back to them in 5 years. And after 5 years, when they received their letter, they were invited to a banquet where they would be the keynote speaker if they would like to express what they achieved with their life by setting goals on paper.
Love that. Listen, as we start to close out of this fantastic interview here, I'd be doing my listening audience a disservice if I didn't ask this next one. Okay, you have mentioned it already. This is not the only book that you've written, so you are a bona fide author, man. I mean, you've gone through the gauntlet of not only writing your narrative, but getting it published as well, and that's a separate adventure in and of itself. But Dr. Blackwell, for any new writers out there listening in right now, what are some words of wisdom that you'd like to offer them about the journey they're getting ready to take?
That's a good question to pose to me at this time. My quick thought would be start a journal. You don't have to write it in every day, every hour, but keep a journal so that you can write down the good things, that experience that you've had, even the bad experience that you had. And before long, you'll realize you have the crux for making a manuscript. And manuscripts, I found, turn into books very easily.
There you have it. Listen, what's the old adage? Practice makes perfect, right? So continuing to perfect your craft and put in the time. I love that. Listen, we've discussed so much information here today, Dr. Blackwell. Is there anything that we haven't yet touched up on that you really want to make sure our listening audience is aware of?
I think we covered a lot. I don't want to tie up a lot of your time, because the time that I've had with you during these few precious moments have been very encouraging to me and very excited. And just to have the opportunity to be blessed with your presence, I've gotten a lot out of it, and I hope what I've had to share can help someone along the lines with their life. And my suggestion is get the book, American Educator.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble is where you have to go, people. He mentioned it again. An American Educator, a story of tragedy and triumph, how an educator changed the lives of an American family, by Dr. Thomas Blackwell. You surely will not be disappointed. This is a wonderful resource to add to your shelf, but I'm going to take it a step further. It's an even better gift to add to someone else's. Head on over there today, pick up your copies, and get lost in it. Dr. Blackwell, this has been a true pleasure, an absolute honor. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you very much, KG. I appreciate the time.